Yeah, we'll kick it off. So again, pleasure to have you guys like on our Academy videos and learned a lot about you guys about a month ago, or actually it's about 2 months ago, Brandon, when we met in Vegas. And Sticky IO is a platform that I'm very familiar with. We had customers that have been using it, but it sounds like you guys have been evolving over the last, I would say, like 60 days since I've been speaking with you, and you guys are running or building some really cool solutions that will help cater to a lot of online sellers out there. Just tell me a little bit about yourself and your involvement with Sticky IO for people that don't know that are out there. Sticky IO is a payment orchestration platform. They help run subscriptions and also have different checkout features to optimize authorization rates. But again, I'll have them dig into the specifics here. So maybe Greg, we'll start with you. Just a quick intro, your background, and maybe how would you describe Sticky as a platform?
Yeah, and thanks for having us on the show. My name's Greg Austin. I'm Director of Sales Engineering here at Sticky. Really, I kind of specialize in, net new merchants, fitting with our platform from a technological perspective and kind of opening up more of a payment landscape for them to process payments. I've been here for close to 10 years. I've been on both the product side of the house and now on the revenue side of the house. And really what Sticky is, and to summarize, is it's a flexible PCI level one compliant billing and payments platform that's really built to handle both one-time purchases but recurring subscription billing. We use secure tokenized card data and are really agnostic of the end payment gateway. So what we really do is empower merchants to control how payments are routed, retried, optimized within their entire stack. We primarily work with direct to consumer merchants, subscription businesses, high growth e-commerce companies that really need more flexibility and control than their standard carts offer. Our ideal
Okay.
client is someone who is trying to really maximize that LTV, minimize customer churn, and really optimize that payment ecosystem.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, good explanation, a lot better than mine. So I know you'll dig into some more information here in a bit, but Brandon, I know we have you on the call as well. Then again, I know we had a chance to connect in Vegas and a couple weeks ago, actually, your office in San Francisco. So just a brief intro of yourself and background.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, and appreciate you having us on the show. I am part of the partnerships and sales team here at Sticky.io, mostly focused on our Sticky recovery tool and our Sticky core product. Checkout was a solution that I think we launched about 60 days ago. So when you and I met in Vegas, it just was a good
Mhm.
opportunity for us to kind of bridge the gap with that solution and, of course, the Sticky recovery and core product. So happy to be here, be part of the call, and I'll let you guys take it from here.
Cool. Well, thanks, Brandon. So this again, I have a list of questions that I was going to run through here, but I think in the past I worked with clients that were leveraging your platform. I think one was an eight-figure a month seller, but again, there's some other customers that are not doing that high volume. So what would you say is really your ideal customer profile that you do work with, and what would be somebody that would really be again a great customer for you, and really you would help them get to, let's say, the next stage of growth, and what does that look like, I guess, just if you were to describe your ideal customer.
Yeah, and it's mostly kind of direct to consumer merchants. We
Mhm.
work with a lot of subscription businesses, but we're not finite in that space. We can work with one-time purchase merchants as well. But really, it's really trying to enhance that payment stack, right? It's a merchant that was previously running on Shopify. They've been pushed into Shopify payments and really kind of just in that world. And now they want to open themselves up to more processing capabilities. Whether that's they want to sell in different regions, they want to take a domestic business and now sell internationally, or they kind of just want to help spread out that risk and manage that risk of, managing multiple merchant accounts and things like that.
Okay, perfect. And is there like a volume size that you would say, like what merchant would you say would be an ideal customer for you in a monthly sales revenue perspective?
It's a good question. We do work with merchants of all sizes. I would
Hmm.
say, at least doing, 20,000, 30,000 transactions a month, I'd say would be our ideal customer. Obviously, we're more of an advanced e-commerce platform. So a lot of these kind of, startup companies, I think Shopify is a good, low barrier of entry to kind of start
Hmm.
out. But as these companies grow and scale and they need more tools and more enhancements, that's really where, our platform comes into play.
Perfect. And how do you guys like play with Shopify? So I know obviously there's these third-party funnels like Funnelish or Checkout Champ or ClickFunnels. There's Phoenix now. How do you guys interact with Shopify? So let's say somebody is, they built their business on Shopify, they're exploring some other options. Like, how do you guys sit within that ecosystem? Does the merchant have to completely move everything over to your platform? Can they work in like a hybrid approach? How does that typically look just from a migration perspective or integration perspective?
Yeah, and previously, we were really a kind of headless e-commerce platform and would require a merchant on Shopify to say, okay, you're moving off of Shopify onto Sticky.
Hmm.
We've now built more of a hybrid, as you kind of spoke about, where we can allow a merchant's product catalog, their storefront, all of the customer elements that are seen from a purchase perspective, and really kind of just take over that back end of the payment processing by kind of opening themselves up to more payment processing providers, more flexibility around how to route payments and retry failed payments. But essentially, we can take a Shopify store that is built and managed on Shopify and transact those through Sticky today.
Got it. And as far as the checkout experience, when you're looking at that and just trying to understand, would the checkout be completely different than what they would experience today, like on Shopify? Would that run in parallel? Would they be able to kind of run maybe multiple pages and it goes to maybe your platform's checkout? Like, how does that kind of look just for users that would like have no clue? Like a lot of merchants, they're the first time hearing about you, but just kind of curious how that looks.
Yeah, and it can be both, right? We work with merchants that might have their kind of main e-com store running on Shopify, and then
Hmm.
Sticky is more responsible for the funnels. Hey, I want to, run more direct to consumer funnels where I'm doing some sort of, meta ads to drive traffic towards, and it's really kind of, single product, multi-product, based funnels. So
Got it.
it's a multitude, right? We can support the merchant that wants to run their entire e-commerce store on Sticky. We can support the merchant that might have their e-com main store on Shopify, but then wants to run funnels through Sticky. It's
Okay.
kind of a multitude in the way that we integrate. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And so it's more of like a co-opetition in a way with Shopify. You can have it where it's fully moved over to your platform, or in a lot of cases, it sounds like it's kind of like a crawl, walk, run, where maybe they'll do bits and pieces of Shopify, move things over to your platform, and then they can fully migrate if they want to.
Yeah, and kind of the beauty of Shopify is it's very easy for non-developers to get in there and build and manage pages. They have a great drag and drop page editor and things like that. It's very easy to stand up pages within Shopify, and that's really what we're leveraging is, hey, your marketing team, they can use Shopify's content management system to really manage the customer experience from a front end standpoint, but we're going to give them more power on the back end than something like Shopify can provide from a payment processing standpoint.
Right. There's a lot of limitations. There was a recent change. This is kind of off topic, but Adyen, who's a native gateway within Shopify, they've now changed the rules where a merchant has to do 120 million annually in volume to actually access Adyen now. And so Shopify Payments kind of creates a moat around their ecosystem. They want you to use Shopify Payments and Shopify Payments only. And a lot of these like subscription options within Shopify, they're very limited on payment gateways,
Exactly.
right? So like with something like your platform, how many gateways do you guys currently have exposure to now? Because it seems like it's very flexible comparatively to like a Shopify, only ecosystem.
Yeah, and we have, I believe, like 155 plus payment gateways now. A lot of ISOs and white labels, but customer or merchants that sell in specific areas of the world. South
Mhm.
America and Brazil has very specific payments that need to be used. Europe has restrictions around 3D secure and things like that. So for merchants that are selling in all these different regions, there's not really a good one size fits all payment processing solution for them, and that's kind of where we open it up, is say, hey, you're running multiple different websites in different areas of the world. Let's give you the kind of best in class payment processor for each one of those different sectors of the business, and
Mhm.
kind of build that in an all in one solution. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, like, who are some of your competitors? I think, Shopify to a degree, but it's more of like a co-opetition, I would say. But like, who are like your top three kind of main competitors that you see out there, and like, what are some fundamental differences between you and those competitors?
Yeah, and I think something like Stripe Billing, they've done a great job of standing up a very easy to use checkout, PCI compliant, secure. But what Stripe is it's all through Stripe. So a lot
Hmm.
of merchants that are selling in different verticals, different MCC codes, they're not able to use something like Stripe. So that's where having a more flexible option that is similar to that would be Sticky would come into play. Other ones are more subscription first platforms, but Recharge, Chargeify, ChargeBee, those are kind of similar platforms that kind of solve for similar use cases as well. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Um, and kind of walk us through the new checkout solution. So I know this is something that's pretty new, and it's a little bit more. Your offering seems to be more a la carte, from at least from how I understand it. So maybe you can educate me a little bit more here. But your checkout solution, it sounds like it's kind of its own capability to improve like authorization rates, where you can cascade, and if one payment processor declines, it'll go to the next one. Maybe just walk me through that new product that you guys are offering, and what the benefits are.
Yeah, and a lot of these offerings we had in what we call our core platform. So Sticky
Hmm.
core platform, supported, payment routing, cascading, retry scheduling, things like that. What we didn't have is really an easy way for a merchant to integrate into Sticky as a core platform. Everything was really API first. It would require developers to build an API integration into our backend platform. So with our new checkout solution, it's really trying to be more of a plug and play solution. Today we are working with Shopify merchants and basically saying, hey, we can put a checkout on the Shopify that allows you to use Sticky's backend system to offer you, all the flexibility that we mentioned before. And kind of the direction we're going with it is, being more agnostic of a funnel builder. As you kind of
Hmm.
mentioned before, there's a lot of funnel builders out there, Funnelish, ClickFunnels. Those are kind of the best in class funnel builders that merchants are wanting to use. So really what checkout comes into play is integrating agnostically to those funnel builders to kind of give you a plug and play checkout that's PCI compliant, that transacts through Sticky and gives you all of that payment optimization.
Okay, perfect. So, somebody can just, it's almost like dipping their toe in the water, utilizing your checkout solution, and then just kind of, looking to upgrade from there, essentially. In a way, I mean, obviously there's probably some more to it. It wouldn't be like a plug and play, because I think you mentioned you had to map the product catalog over. So, but it's a great way for you to provide value in the immediate, and then they can look at other solutions with you, in the future.
Yeah, and with something like Shopify, we have a very tight integration to Shopify. We're doing bilateral syncing between the two
Hmm.
databases. So for the merchant experience, there's not a whole lot of configuration mapping that's needed. It's very much a hey, plug in your Shopify store and we'll make sure everything is synced up and ready to go. And then you're
Okay.
kind of just selecting what products you want to sell on that checkout page, and then it's very much out of the box solution that gives you full capability to do routing and cascading and things like that on the back end.
Okay, so you do have an application that, again, within Shopify, that they can download, and then it's pretty native in terms of being able to get this set up and going.
Yeah, it's a hosted checkout page that's
Yeah,
hosted by Sticky, that can be built on a Shopify storefront. Yeah.
got it. Okay. Okay, that's good to know. Again, learning from myself too, just from the conversations that we've had. What do you typically see? I know it's relatively new, but you have the Sticky Core platform, but like, what are like the typical like uplifts that you see, or like the main advantages from like a performance or conversion rate perspective in using your checkout versus, just a standard one payment gateway checkout?
Yeah, and there's kind of a couple solutions that really kind of help with authorization rate, approval rates, but also reduce customer churn. Payment routing would be kind of the first initial thing that we would want a merchant to implement. Basically, hey, you're going through one payment gateway today. Let's get you maybe a couple different merchant accounts that we can route those payments through, and then really kind of understanding the business. What types of transactions are going to get approved at higher rates through those various merchant accounts. So the first
Hmm.
piece is we're really helping with those initial authorization and approval rates.
Hmm.
We've seen merchants that have gone from a single payment gateway to open themselves up to 3 or 4 payment gateways, increasing their authorization rates by 5 to 15%, just by dynamically routing transactions through a provider that's going to have the highest chance of approval.
Hmm.
The
Okay.
second piece of it is what we call Cascade. And Cascade is really adding redundancy to that payment processing. This can be both done for initial purchases when the customer's present on the checkout page, but also for subscription recurring billing. And basically what happens there is when a payment fails on a designated payment gateway, instead of just stopping there and telling the customer, hey, your payment declined, let's go retry that on a secondary processor.
Hmm. Hmm.
What we've seen in our data is there's a ton of gateway processor errors that aren't really, the customer's fault. It's not that they don't have funds in their account. It's not that their card's not valid. It's for whatever reason, the technology has failed. They don't like the bin, things like that.
Hmm.
So by having a fallback, you're eliminating those single points of failure. With cascading, we've seen merchants save, anywhere from I would say 7 to 20% of soft declines just by having a secondary processor that can try to attempt those transactions. You're kind of eliminating a lot of those gateway processor errors and things like
Hmm.
that. And then the third piece of it is what we call smart dunning. And basically, this is specific to recurring billing. But when we go to rebill a customer and their payment fails, instead of saying, hey, subscription's on hold, the payment failed, we want to in a intelligent way decide when should that payment be reattempted.
Hmm.
With this, we're looking at a lot of predictor points, right? We're looking at the bin of the card, the amount of the transaction, the decline code that was returned from the gateway. And all of this gets fed into a smart algorithm that basically says, hey, I know this was a debit card. I know it declined for insufficient funds. Let's predict when those funds are going to be available by scheduling a payment for, next Friday or something like that.
Yep.
But we're looking at a lot of different predictor points all the way down to, the bank and processor level as well.
Okay. Perfect. No, really good information. So like in terms of like platforms you're integrated with or work with, like it sounds like obviously with Shopify, but like you have kind of a list of all the platforms that you play nice with, or it's really easy to kind of move or collaborate with.
Yeah, and Shopify is very much a closed ecosystem.
Hmm.
So in order to, build into Shopify, you have to make sure that you're integrated into their APIs. And that's
Yep.
something that we've done for Shopify.
Hmm.
Other solutions like, WooCommerce,
Hmm.
Magento, Salesforce Commerce Cloud, they're much more open source. So integrating our solution into those platforms is much more straightforward.
Yep.
Any open source builder, front ends build on WordPress, things like that, we play very nicely with.
Okay. Perfect. Well, this is really good. I mean, in terms of just, where you guys are headed, and again, my conversations are obviously I have a few merchants that can already benefit from your services. So discuss those kind of post call recording. But anything else that you wanted to kind of hit on your side of things? I know you seem to be more kind of on the high risk space, but it seems like you're kind of going more low risk, or maybe I would say even medium risk now. Um, Anything kind of like what you guys are planning to do maybe in the next 6 months or like a year? I know obviously Brandon's on your team now, but kind of what's kind of like the future roadmap look like for Sticky in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so for our checkout product, it's as I kind of mentioned, it's building it more agnostically into other, front end solutions. So allowing us to be, a payment optimization provider for funnels
Hmm.
that are built on, Funnelish or ClickFunnels or, any sort of front end funnel builder that the merchant wants to use and being that back end processing. We were built, I would say, more in the mid to high risk space, but we're working with merchants that are very low risk that have
Hmm.
no propensity to charge back, low decline rates. And really what we're doing is, opening their ecosystem up, their payment ecosystem up into more providers. So
Hmm.
this can be beneficial from a approval and authorization rate perspective, but also from a cost effectiveness perspective. You might get certain rates domestically for a provider, but then get better rates on somebody else internationally. So
Hmm.
how do we allow merchants to, plug in those multiple providers that are going to, increase authorization rates, but also kind of give them the most cost-effective solutions as well. As far as roadmap is concerned, smart dunning is a big piece of our roadmap. What we've done with smart dunning is we've allowed merchants that are using other recurring billing platforms to utilize our back-end algorithm for determining when is the highest probability of getting a payment to go through.
Hmm.
So a merchant does not even need to use Sticky to benefit from those services. They could be using another recurring billing system, but
Hmm.
really just want to focus on that customer churn and that failed payment recovery. And that's where we can offer more of kind of what we call a microservice solution specifically towards that area. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it seems like there's tons of flexibility. Some platforms require like a full, migration. They're going to handle everything where it seems like yours, you can kind of pull bits and pieces. And obviously you have your sticky core platform. Obviously you want to try to use everything because that's where you're going to get the biggest value from your platform. But a merchant can kind of select and pick and choose what they want. That's going to ultimately benefit them. So that's very cool. So,
Yeah, and I kind of see that the way of the market going is, instead of being an all-in-one solution, merchants are really looking for the best in class. Who's going to give me the best payment recovery? Who's going to give me the best customer experience? And it
mhm.
might not be also one solution. So we, as a company, are starting to break off some of those, areas of expertise that we do really well and figure out how they can be isolated and merchants can plug into just those, microservice solutions.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I think that's a great segue to kind of end on here. And again, appreciate the time today. Really just taking a minute just to chat with us. And what we'll do is we'll have a link just right below here on the call recording that if you're interested in setting up a demo just to review the Sticky, whether it's Sticky Core platform or the checkout solutions or smart dunning solution, you can click the link and that'll take you right to them to schedule a call and a demo and see what we can do. So again, appreciate the time today, Greg. Brandon, I know you're traveling today. Appreciate the time to hop on the call and coordinating this, but look forward to growing the partnership. Thanks again.
Thanks a lot.